Hey, hi Neil.
Hi.
Thanks very much for coming over to talk on the Yes Life
You're
show.
welcome.
Hoping to find out a bit about yoga and maybe the way it can help people with cancer today. Okay, so yoga, it's come to us from the East. I kind of guess you got your family roots over there somewhere in the East, but are you actually UK born? Did you?
I am, yeah. I was born in Windsor.
Windsor, right.
Yeah, the Royal Borough of Windsor.
Good.
Although
Great.
my mum says it's closer to Windsor Zoo than anything else. Than anything royal.
So, you know, yoga along with meditation stroke mindfulness, they kind of swept through the UK and the West in a way that you probably couldn't have predicted when you first started yoga. Amazing the way they've taken off in all sorts of different fields, schools and workplaces, all sorts of things. Why do you think these had so much appeal?
I think there's a huge thirst for some spiritual gap to be fulfilled in our society.
Okay.
And I think religion has massively let people down in the sense that it's become an indoctrination for people. People have felt scared if they don't do things according to their religions. And so people have been kind of ostracized from their spiritual path by their own faiths at times. And also some of the bad rap that goes on with religions is not necessary, but some of it is true. So people have moved away from popular religion as the years have gone on. And so they've needed something to fulfill that gap. And yoga, because it's a spiritual practice at its core, has started to fulfill that emptiness inside people.
Yeah, interesting. So for yourself, how did you get into it in the first place? What drew you to yoga?
Well, I was drawn to yoga by default. So my mother was a yoga teacher. So she started teaching in 1976 in London. And the story goes that when I was 4 years old, I insisted that she got a job that she was at home for. So when I come back from school, she's there. So she quit her job as a secretary and started teaching yoga classes because it meant that she could be at home. And then I was a happy boy. So I was introduced to yoga at the age of 4. And then it was part of my life until about 18. And then when I began teaching.
Wow, so really, you started
Really
in nappies practically. Amazing. Right, okay. So you've got a bit of your own story to tell. You've actually had cancer yourself, I understand.
Yes.
And so just if you can maybe tell us a little bit about that, and then tell us if you think yoga had a part to play in your return to well-being. Maybe you want to say a bit about that.
Well, look, I was diagnosed with a pleomorphic rhabdomyosarcoma in the year 2000, which in simple terms is a muscle tumour. It was found in my left leg because I had a lot of DVTs suddenly appearing in my calf of the left leg. So when I went to the doctors, they said, okay, you've got a lot of DVTs, there's something going on here.
DVT?
A DVT is a deep vein thrombosis.
Thank you.
Normally it's found in elderly people who are more sedentary in their lifestyle, or it's found in people that travel on planes, as you know, if you're sitting in one position for so long. So it's a bit strange for a 26-year-old to be coming with so many DVTs in the calf. So he said to me, go to A&E and check yourself in and sort yourself out, find out what's going on. I had a yoga class to do that night, so I'd done my class, checked myself into A&E at 11 o'clock at night, and they didn't let me out of hospital for 3 weeks. They started to obviously think this is really suspicious. And when they'd done their tests, they found out eventually that the reason for the DVTs is there was a 12 centimetre tumour that had already formed without my knowledge, which was squeezing onto the veins and was basically strangling my blood supply. And I was going to get a DVT, which could lead to a heart attack. So they put me immediately on fragmin injections, blood thinners, to release the blood flow, and then eventually they told me that I had cancer.
Okay, so a little bit, just briefly, the treatment you had, and then if you could go on to say if you felt you intentionally used yoga as part of your program, or how?
Well, with the treatment, so they wanted to start doing chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and surgery within a few days of my diagnosis. So they told me that on a Friday evening of the cancer thing, and they wanted me in on Monday to do chemo. Over the weekend, I researched by myself what the prognosis was for someone with my condition, and my own understanding was that it was very, very poor, and that the cancer can spread into the lungs, into the brain very quickly. And I think it was within 5 years you've got a 25% chance of being alive with amputation and so on and so forth. And then I investigated. So this is what I recommend to people: not to do one thing or the other, but to do research.
Sure.
So I looked at people and I looked at cases that have had amputations and used chemo and surgery and whatnot for my particular cancer, And I wasn't finding people whose cancer was being cured. So I thought to myself, hold on a second, if doing these treatments is a risk anyway, why don't I take my own form of a risk? So just to go back a little bit, my brother had ankylosing spondylitis when I was 10 and he was 15, and that's a crippling condition of which there is no cure. So he'd done something called the Gerson therapy many years ago in the early 80s, and he cured his condition and he walked again.
So Gerson therapy is normally, of course, it's people with cancer are using.
Right, so then those books were in my house.
Right.
So I thought, okay, well, instead of me doing the chemo, radio and this lot, let me try Gerson first. So my mum contacted the hospital and said, okay, listen, he's not coming in on Monday. He's going to shoot off and do his own thing. And they said, well, do you realise he's got a life-threatening condition? And she was like, well, look, he's a man. He'll make his own decisions. He's gone.
Good response.
Yeah. So what do you want me to say to you? So my family and my cousin and me, well, me and my cousin went to Mexico.
So they're all supportive of your choice?
100%, yeah.
Great. Doesn't happen for everybody. Of course, a lot of people, their whole families trying to persuade them to do something different to their own choice.
So so my first step wasn't really yoga per se, it was Gerson.
Right.
Do you want me to tell you a little bit about it?
Go for it, yeah.
So Gerson, I went over to Mexico and I'd done their treatment for 1 month over there. I came back and continued the treatment for 9 months over here. I went back and done 3-4 months over there. I came back and done some more. So I ended up doing 18 months of Gerson therapy.
Which is part of the course, really. Lots of people
yeah, so and we maxed it out. We're doing 5 to 7 enemas a day and 13 juices and whatnot. So obviously the cancer stopped spreading. It didn't. The lump itself didn't actually go, which everyone is really surprised about because Gerson is so powerful in that respect. Then I tried Ayurveda, some Indian medicine, some Chinese medicine, and so on and so forth. What eventually happened was that I realized that, look, the tumor itself is not going. I need to try and do something deeper and something stronger, and I can't keep doing these therapies for the rest of my life because they are completely life obstructing in many ways.
Well, they entirely take up your life, basically.
Entirely, right? So I wasn't doing anything but therapy, so I thought I need to go back to work. Now, prior to this, I was a yoga teacher.
Yes.
So I thought I want to set up my yoga again. So it's at that point I decided I'm not going to go along these therapies anymore. And Gerson was saying don't have salt, and raw food was saying don't have cooked, and Chinese was saying you've got to have meat, and vegetarians were saying don't have meat, and I just got so fed up with everyone. I said, right, I'm going to go directly to my mind and see if I can sort myself out with my mind. And everyone was like, no, if you do that, the cancer's going to spread and all this kind of. I said, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm finished. I'm doing my thing now. So I started up my yoga company again, and I said, right now, this all has to come from my soul. So I decided to, during the period of this Gerson treatment, I came up with something called mind yoga. So mind yoga was a really sub-intellectual, sub-academic thought process, because I was not a great academic. I left school and college, and I didn't get to uni, no poly. But a very simple idea came to me, and that's that my brain controls my nerves and my nerves control my cells. So I thought, if I perfect everything in my consciousness, it's going to send super signals down to my cells through my nervous system, and that's going to be my chance. That's my thing. So I created this thing called mind yoga. I split my brain up into 31 sections, things like change, God, money, friends, wisdom, spirituality, even-mindedness. 31 sections that I thought dominated my consciousness, and I rewrote on paper the blueprint of my consciousness. So these were now going to be the thoughts I was going to think in these areas. And it became like my own Bible. And I read it religiously every day. These were thoughts that were coming to me intuitively. And I started work. And I just ate what I wanted to eat, done what I wanted to do. And that was 14 years ago. So since then, I find that my cancer has still remained dormant. It's not spread. I see doctors regularly. They biopsy me regularly, and they still say in the tumor it's grade 3, but it's not spreading to your lungs. It's not spreading to your brain. Ordinarily, it should kill you within a year.
That's pretty amazing. If they're actually saying you've got a grade 3 tumour that's not doing anything. I mean, that's extraordinary in itself. I mean, grade 3 means essentially that it's in a situation where it should be spreading throughout your body.
Correct.
Incredible.
So they have...
When did you last have that verdict?
3 years ago.
3 years ago, right.
So they regularly MRI. Interestingly, the first professor who took my case on said that this cancer is going to kill you graphically. You're not going to survive without doing treatment. And slowly, as we argued over the years went on, in a nice way, in a diplomatic way, he now calls me the miracle man. He calls his doctors and team into the office and says we should all be doing what Neil Patel's doing, i.e. yoga. And I asked him quite straightly, directly, I said to him, do you still think this is going to kill me? And he says to me, Neil, if it was going to kill you, it would have done so by now. You've defied all medical logic. I mean, they've just closed the book on it. They don't get it.
What an interesting story, eh? All right, so look, an awful lot of people in the West are attracted to yoga because it's an exercise program. That's what they think, oh, this is where you get out of your lycra and you go out there and do some exercise. Of course, its origins are much deeper than that, and I'm just interested to hear how you look at it yourself. Whether the way you're treating it sounds like obviously you're not just looking at it as simply an exercise program. How far do you think it goes in terms of?
Well, I mean, the word yoga, if we can come back to the bare bones of it, perhaps, it means union, and the type of union they describe traditionally in yoga is the union of the soul and the spirit. So this is what they say, okay? We won't prescribe that everybody has to follow this way of thinking, but they say that an individual has a soul inside them, and that the whole purpose of life is for the soul to reconnect with its source, being the universe or God or love or whatever you choose to term it, and that we are kind of estranged from our original home, if you like, on this planet Earth, and that yoga is that thing that will reconnect you back metaphysically to your source. So that's what yoga means. Now, the series of asanas or physical practices that go along with it hand in hand are a step on the path of yoga to make one's body healthy enough for it to be able to sit in meditation postures for long periods without pain, and without ourselves being troubled by small minor ailments like stomach problems and so on and so forth, to keep the machine cool, to be able to do spiritual practices. What's happened in the West is it's slightly kind of taken the physical element and made that into a kind of competitive, over-exaggerated form of exercise, which is almost completely unnecessary. One's body just needs to be stable and healthy enough to sit to do spiritual practices. So yeah, the West has not really understood what yoga is about. Certain people like Paramahansa Yogananda, Sri Yukteswarji and others are good at explaining the spiritual side, but mostly they ignore it.
So do you find that nevertheless that people who are attracted to yoga just because it looks like a great exercise thing actually get drawn into the deeper aspects of it? Yeah,
I mean, that's the idea. This is why I'm not opposed to it.
Right.
And why my class is 75% physical, because everybody needs a starting point. And if you become too hard-nosed about things, you end up cutting your nose off to spite your face, right? So I'm fine with people doing physical exercises. Look, let's put no bones about it. Physical exercises, they're fantastic for the immune system. They clear the lymphatic system. They're great for circulation. They make the bones strong. Everything you need to be a stronger, healthier human being is there. But yoga in and of itself is a spiritual evolution practice. And that is what, prior to my cancer, I did see yoga a bit more physically, but then after I got this kick up the backside, spiritual kick up the backside, I thought, you know what, actually, I need to learn what this is really about and start applying some of these deeper psychological and metaphysical principles to my condition. And because I tried all the physical kind of cures to it, and they left me wanting, it made me actually go to a great place in myself, which said, you know what, we've all got this powerful brain of ours, but how much do we actually know about its capacity? And then when I was able to put that to the test, and as you see today, 16 years into having cancer and with a grade 3, I'm as strong, as fit, and as hopefully as intelligent as anyone I've met who doesn't have cancer. So I guess it's mind over matter with me.
Right, so coming to the mind side, you're talking about, of course, some of the greatest challenges about being diagnosed with cancer, about being treated for cancer, are the psychological ones, in fact, aren't they? People are really put up against some very tough obstacles that maybe they've never come across in their life, in terms of their like existential problems, like facing the fact that they really could die quite soon, rather than I'm going to live forever, but they're all dreaming. And their precious future that they've planned out for themselves is suddenly the whole thing's potentially for the chop. So the really difficult things, apart from dealing with physical difficulties, which may be disfiguring things happening to them, very tough treatments with a lot of side effects, all sorts of challenges that most of us would seek hard to avoid, are thrown at people. Now, do you think that yoga has a place for helping people to get through this kind of thing?
Well, I mean, the psychological part is really interesting. And again, when you talk to me about yoga, I am looking at it incredibly spiritually. So I'll have to answer from that point of view,
fine, yeah.
if that's okay. But again, when I was diagnosed, and I guess referring to me is probably the best place for me to start answering this question. When I was diagnosed, I didn't have any fear of death or any fear of losing this battle. Honestly, because I'm so the kind of belief of the soul is so entrenched in me, it's so deep in me that I feel immortal. I feel that my real being is immortal, right. and it is not. I don't die, right? And the reason my physical body dies, but my soul doesn't. So there's a part of me that's more powerful than my body, and if only I'm able to tap into that source of power, then I can override whatever my body wants to do. So I dominated my psychology with the psychology of the soul. And I said, well, look, body, you're coming with me. You're going to live as long as I want to live, and you'll die when I tell you to die. So you can call that arrogance, you can call that stubbornness, you can call that willpower, you can call it faith. But what happened and what really keeps me alive is that simple program in my head that says, I'm not dying until I'm ready. I've got work to do. And the day I die will be the day that I decide to switch this body off. Now, yogis in India and the real yogis, that's how they think. So when you're talking about real yoga, that's how a yogi thinks. They don't let the body dominate them. They dominate the body with their soul. So if someone's doing yoga, I say to them, look at yoga deeply and try to understand what this metaphysical, the above the physical aspect of yourself is. Your mind is only a part of your consciousness. There's a greater, vaster one called the soul. Tap into that. And that real yoga is what I used to get me here today. Meditation being the link, mindfulness as it's now being termed. Meditation, which is one's connection with the soul through disciplined practices or strategic therapeutic practices. If you practice those things, then you're going to get closer to the soul. And the soul is at the center of every cell. Our cells are all conscious, as you know. So if you're tapping into your default perfect setting, it's going to biologically change you as well, because your perceptions of life are completely different. And also your actuality of life is different.
Right. So you're talking about yoga there almost in a context with meditation. That's one thing, really.
Yeah.
So do you want to say a bit more about that, how these two things are linked together and how you see them as one?
Well, I believe there's no difference between yoga. Meditation is the culmination of yoga practice. So as I said, physically you get to a position where you can meditate, and the meditation leads you to liberation. So when one is practicing meditation, they're concentrating on their soul, and then they reach a point called samadhi, which is when they merge with the spirit, and they go into an ecstatic space of joy, peace, happiness, and love, and nothing. Then you're unbeatable from there. So I believe that every day a person should sit down for 15 minutes. And they should clear all negative emotion. They should clear their mind and focus on their peace, their happiness, and everything from within. And that is what they should use towards whatever treatment they're doing physically. Because I'm not against chemotherapy and I'm not for alternative therapy. What I'm about is everyone has a mind and they should apply that to whatever they're doing. I'm a mind guy, Robin. Right. With me, it's all about the consciousness and using it well. That's my thing.
Right. Okay. So
more than the yoga, as it would say in inverted commas, I'm a mind guy.
Right. Interesting. Interesting. So, but you're talking about a very specific use of the mind, because of course the mind can work the other way, and it can be a complete nightmare. Of course,
but
work against you, and so this is presumably what you're talking about is actually turning that around so that it becomes useful.
Well, the thing is, Robin, most of the time when doctors give you a diagnosis, what they're actually doing is they're planting a seed in your consciousness. And this is why I talk about the mind so much, because if you have faith like they say in the Bible, I'm not a Christian or anything as such to follow that, but they say if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain or something of that nature. When a human mind has faith and belief in something, it is the most incredible power that they generate within themselves. Now, our system has got us to a point where we have total faith in our doctors. So if your doctor is like your parent, you know, which is a lot of people see them as, they just ship themselves off to the doctor and follow everything they say, fix me, and then your parent says to you, you're going to die in 6 months' time, no matter what you do, Mr. Patel, which is what the kind of rhetoric they use with me. And I believe it. You know the nocebo effect, the opposite to the placebo effect. So your whole system goes into a breakdown. It's, I'm going to die. No matter what happens, I'm going to die. And you repeat it every day. You tell your family, they cry, and they substantiate this concept. So next thing you know, all your cells are believing they're dying, and then you will die. So that's why the first point, when he said to me, this is going to happen, my first block was no. Not going to happen. I didn't let my cells think that way, and I created a placebo effect, if you like, if there was nothing more than what I'm saying, and I said that's not possible. Death is not possible. So I think where the problem lies is not even that people have tumours or they have cancer cells in the body, because I don't think at the first sight of cancer it's deadly. I think the problem is what doctors and what society says about cancer, and then followed up with 3 treatments that they give you, which are barbaric, which are shoot, kill, destroy, cut, and then I'm going to kill your brain at the same time by telling you you're going to die. You've got absolutely no chance of surviving. So psychologically, this is the problem.
Right. So you're pointing to a lack of support for the person in both a physical and a mental way, that actually they really want to be told, and we're going to do our best for you. You know, we're going to do everything we can to keep you alive.
Well, no, even not that, Robin. I think they need to be told you're going to do it.
Right. Actually be successful.
Yeah, but the problem is we're in such a litigious society where everyone will get sued, right?
I know they would.
Right, this is the problem. So if a doctor says you're going to do it, which is what they should say, right? If you really want the best out of anyone, if someone's going to run a race, you're not going to. The trainer's not going to go and say, yeah, you should do okay. I'm going to try and help you as a trainer to get to the cross to win the race. They're going to say you're going to do it. We all know what the brain does, but doctors, they say, no, you're actually not going to do it.
Yeah. No, you're right. Well, they can't say that, but they can say, we're going to do everything we can for you. They can be much more supportive in that way.
Yeah, they can say that, but again, with a disease, cancer is a very specific type of illness. It's a very intelligent disease. The cancer cells go into the body, they park themselves up in a main site, they break off and go in other little pockets in the body, they wait for the main site to be destroyed, they jump up somewhere else and say, we're over here now, whilst they've sent other little cancer cells to other pockets. That secondary goes, the tertiary comes and says, we're here now. It's an incredibly intelligent system. Cancer cells are mutated human cells that run on the same consciousness as the human that they're in, so they know how to outwit the human body that they're in. It is such an intelligent cell. So if you go and chop cancer cells off, you're playing a dumb game with them. They're streets ahead. So we need to approach it with same amount of power, not hope, but power.
Interesting. Okay, so now let's step back again and look at it in a completely physical way. Okay. Now, a lot of people with cancer have to deal with some pretty tough physical circumstances.
Yes.
So that might be surgery, it might be fatigue, which is just like an epidemic in the world of cancer, isn't it? People, when A, they've got cancer, and B, they're having cancer treatments. The amount of fatigue that people suffer from is legendary, and of course they do actually list it as one of the worst symptoms. It's not just, oh, it's just a bit of fatigue. It just like the life is sucked out of it. So how about yoga in these sort of situations?
Yeah, I mean, from a physical perspective, doing something called pranayama, which are the breathing exercises, brings fresh vital energy into the body. So all around us, in our oxygen, we have something called prana, which is otherwise known as chi in Oriental sciences, or ki, as they say in Japan, or life force, you could call it. It's a life force that sits in the center of all our elements. So when one is consuming prana directly from a breathing exercise, they're taking fresh life energy into themselves and helping their cells to be strong. when a cancer patient who's undergoing chemotherapy or any other thing, or even just dealing with the cancer itself, their body's fighting. So the reason they're fatigued is quite natural, because all their strength is going towards cleaning their liver or kidneys or flushing out toxins or fighting cancer cells. So by taking fresh energy in through the air, where it's at its finest, through breathing exercises will help them a lot with energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about more in thinking about the sort of kind of rehabilitation of people who've had surgery or having to regain the use of parts of their body which they've lost or something like that?
The great thing with yoga physical practices as well is that when you do these certain exercises, and this is simple versions, for example, at our company we do something called chair yoga, which is yoga for people that are sitting in a chair. So any intelligent yoga teacher will be able to adapt. So when people think of yoga, unfortunately they think of doing downward dogs and headstands and throwing yourself up against the walls and twisting yourselves in knots, but it's not true. So for example, if you're doing simple twisting poses in yoga, even from a chair, it's starting to cleanse the organs. It squeezes, contracts, and throws some junk out of the organs. It gets the lymphatic system going. And our blood is strengthened and cleaned. And the blood is what's going to heal you better. So breathing well, stretching in yoga so you keep the body moving well is going to make your blood strong and heal you quicker. That's what yoga poses should do for you.
Well, you've touched on something I was going to ask about there. So basically, a lot of people might be apprehensive about the whole idea of doing something like yoga, where either when they've got no energy, or when they're like, as I say, they've got pain from limbs that have been had surgery or whatever. So I was going to ask about kind of adapting yoga or yoga classes to suit their needs. Is this something that you've done or you do?
Yeah.
And maybe you want to say a bit more about exactly how that happens to kind of encourage people that they can do this.
Yeah. I mean, one of the simplest sets of yoga poses you can do is from a complete lying down position. So you can work all the legs, all the arms, you can work the head, the neck, all of the senses from a lying down position. So if anyone is even in a hospital bed, they can still do yoga postures from there. As I said, you can do them sitting down. You can do eye exercises. If you have problems, throat exercises, if you have a throat cancer. Skin exercises by moving the chakras, the energy. We have 7 energy points in our body, which are stimulated by sound and vibration. And that all helps health at that core level. So if they saw a good yoga teacher, they'll be able to give them so much. And we're obviously here to help. And I'm sure my details will go out eventually. We can help. Yeah.
So you basically encourage anybody who's going through cancer to have a look in and see?
I encourage anyone to speak to a professional, insured and certified yoga teacher, yes.
Right.
Because they should have the experience and knowledge to know what to do.
Okay, good. So I want to touch on the again, looking at it very physically, on the type of exercise that yoga is. Now, it's fundamentally very different to going for a run or even going for a walk. It's a different kind of exercise. And it has probably different value to it. I mean, there's plenty of good reasons to go out for a walk every day, but this is a different kind of exercise. So maybe differentiate what it does for you as opposed to, aerobics or weightlifting or anything else that somebody might do.
I think one of the most simplest ways of explaining it is a lot of those exercises that you've named are very 1 or 2 dimensional, and they're repetitive on certain joints, and they act in certain ways, and they develop certain skills. Excuse me. With yoga, it's multi-dimensional. So you are in so many different types of positions during a class. You're upside down, you're on this side, you're on that side, you're twisting, you're standing, you're using your legs, you're suddenly in a press-up type position. But what it's doing is it's circulating the where your intensity is in your body into different muscles and groups. So you don't get repetitive strain injuries unless you're doing the same posture over and over again. But most important, and I emphasize this again, is our blood in our body. If you can keep your blood fresh and circulate it well throughout your body, then it's going into different corners of your body. For example, if we do shoulder stand, right? You're upside down. We never do that in any other exercise, right? You're upside down, okay? And then if you do cycling exercises while you're upside down, like moving your legs as if you're driving a penny farthing, nice big circles with your legs, you're opening and closing joints that don't normally get open and closed in an upside down position. So if you think in simple physics and like a guttering system or a drainage system of the body, sometimes you can't push some junk down a drain pipe the right way. So what do? We turn upside down and bang the ground.
We do.
Right? So that's exactly what yoga's saying without the banging of the ground thing. You're turning the drain pipes upside down, you're shuffling and shaking them around and getting all the dirt out. It goes to your liver for cleansing or your lungs for purification, it comes out of your body. And that's what your lymphatic system is for, right? One of the reasons. So yoga is fantastic in that simple way. It cleans your sewage system out. It cleans all your joints out. Now, what's with the joints? We have a diet at the moment where we have a lot of protein. A lot of people eat a lot of protein. And when protein doesn't break down or leave the system properly, we know it sits in the joints. Uric acid crystallizations, even calcium can sit crystallized. And what happens then, because gravity is pulling it all into one particular part of the joint, and it cannot move because gravity is in control. Turn yourself upside down a few times a week. Shake yourself about a bit. Any physician or basic human being will realize that's a good thing to do. So that I'd say is one of the best reasons to do yoga.
So you're talking about it really as a bit of a systemic exercise, and it gets your whole system working in a way rather than one bit or another bit. And then your endocrine system is worked, your nervous system is worked, digestive system is massaged, respiratory system is used. It's a multi-physical exercise. Well, it's interesting putting it in the context. We were talking earlier about the science side of things. There's not particularly any science behind yoga, but there's a lot of science behind exercise now, of course. And exercise is kind of heralded as like the new wonder drug, because it does have effects which are on a level with drugs and better, So this is, of course, is a big surprise to everybody, but it's not so surprising to people who are involved in exercise. They understand these things. But so yoga, of course, is a very specialised and well-developed form of exercise, isn't it? That has thousands of years of practice. For both for spiritual reasons, but also for health reasons. It's all seen as part of one thing, isn't it? The healthy body, and the healthy spirit, and the healthy mind. It's all connected.
I mean, I feel that yoga has been around for several thousand years. Interestingly, it started with the Lord of Yoga, which we call Lord Shiva, who looked at all the animals and looked at all the plants and looked at all nature, and he mimicked their movements with the human body. And it was a way of kind of like being one with nature, if you want to look at it from a kind of new age angle, but also just if you can do everything the animals and nature can do, you've got to be pretty good right after that. It kind of must work. So it mimicked everything, the fish, everything. So and evolutionary speaking, we kind of came from those places. So in a sense, it takes our cellular consciousness back to its kind of history, which can never be a bad thing, right? It's associating yourself with your former dynamics.
Interesting. Yeah, well, of course, you're right. They're all in there, and particular situations will bring these things out. People behave in animalistic ways if you put them in certain circumstances. So it is all in there.
So that's what yoga does, and physically. And I wish everyone to do it.
Okay, well, obviously you're a big advocate for it. You've been out there pushing it for 25 years now, I think.
I've been teaching 26 years now.
26, yeah, great. All right, well, look, we will put out all your details. It's been really interesting to talk to you, and I hope you've inspired some people to at least take a look, have a go, and see how it could help them.
Yeah, I just want everyone to have hope.
Yeah, thank you, Neil.
Thank you.